And you probably think a Wi-Fi camera on your porch makes your house harder to break into. For the most part, that's true. But there's a second, quieter job that camera is doing, one nobody put on the box. It's collecting a live schedule of exactly when you're home, exactly when you're not, and exactly what's worth stealing once you leave. And in more than a few documented cases, that schedule wasn't just sitting on a server somewhere. It was being watched live by a total stranger. This isn't a story about throwing your cameras in the trash. It's about understanding what you actually bought. And the two things almost nobody sets up correctly. Here's the part the box doesn't explain. A smart camera isn't really a camera. It's a tiny computer running a stripped-down version of Linux that happens to have a lens attached. That computer needs to talk to the internet so you can check the feed from your phone at work. Which means, by design, it's sitting on the open internet, waiting for a connection. Most manufacturers ship these devices with the same setup on every single unit, the same default username, the same default password, sometimes literally admin and admin. It's meant to be temporary, something you're supposed to change during setup. The problem is, most people never do. And that one skipped step is the entire hinge the rest of this video swings on. In 2013, the Federal Trade Commission settled a case against a company called TrendNet, which sold home security cameras branded as SecurView. The FTC found that from at least April 2010, TrendNet failed to properly secure its camera software, and in January 2012, a hacker exploited that flaw and posted it publicly. Eventually, links to live feeds from nearly 700 cameras were shared online, showing babies asleep in cribs and children playing. That wasn't a sophisticated hack. One researcher found the feeds simply by searching the web for a camera's IP address. No password required. 3 years later, the same underlying weakness got weaponized on a much bigger scale. It was called the Mirai botnet, and it didn't target banks or governments. It scanned the internet for devices, mostly security cameras, DVRs, and routers, still running factory default logins, and quietly took control of hundreds of thousands of them. The most common combination it tried first was the username root and the password XC3511. The owners never noticed. Their cameras still worked fine. They just had a second invisible user. So, let's break down, specifically, how a silent home invasion through a camera actually happens, because it's rarely dramatic Hollywood hacking. It's usually one of 4 boring gaps. Gap 1, the unchanged default password. We just covered this. It's still the single biggest reason cameras get compromised. Gap 2, password reuse. This one isn't even the camera's fault directly. In several widely reported 2019 incidents involving Ring cameras, the FTC later found the company had experienced multiple credential stuffing and brute force attacks in 2017 and 2018. Attacks that work by feeding in usernames and passwords stolen from completely unrelated data breaches, betting that people reuse the same login everywhere. In one case that made national news, a Mississippi family had installed a camera in their daughter's bedroom, and within days a stranger accessed it, spoke to their 8-year-old, told her he was Santa Claus, and encouraged her to break things in her room. The camera hardware wasn't broken into. The account was, because the login had been used somewhere else first. Gap 3, no two-factor authentication. At the time, Ring didn't require multi-factor authentication on accounts. It was available, but optional, which meant a stolen password alone was enough to get in. The FTC's later settlement noted Ring only began enforcing it in 2019, after years of incidents. Gap 4, an unsecured home network. Every camera on your Wi-Fi is also a door into every other device on that same network, your laptop, your smart TV, your router. Researchers at Bitdefender demonstrated in 2019 that a flaw in one popular video doorbell could let someone physically near the device use it to compromise the owner's entire Wi-Fi network. Put those 4 together and you get the actual threat. Not someone breaking your camera, but someone quietly borrowing it. Watching when your car leaves the driveway. Noting which window has no curtain. Learning your dog's walk schedule down to the minute. That's the digital window shopping, an inventory of your home, built with your own lens, before anyone sets foot on your property. Here's the part that actually matters, and it's not a hack, a workaround, or anything against a company's terms of service. It's the opposite. It's using the security features already built into these devices exactly the way they were designed to be used, which almost nobody does. The insight is this. A camera's physical hardware is rarely the weak point, and the account layer around it is. So the entire fix lives in 4 settings as menus you already have access to, completely free, inside your existing app. This matters because of something criminologists actually measured, not guessed at. In a landmark study out of UNC Charlotte, researchers interviewed 422 convicted burglars from state prisons in North Carolina, Kentucky, and Ohio about exactly how they picked targets. 83% said they'd check for signs of an alarm system before attempting entry, and 60% said they'd simply choose a different house entirely once they spotted one. Visible cameras, alarm signs, and even dogs were named as top deterrents, and 60% of burglars said they specifically noted these features before committing a crime. So a properly secured, visibly mounted camera is doing real, evidence-backed work, deterring the physical break-in it was bought for. And the visible lens is protecting you before it's even recording anything. That part isn't a myth. The layer that actually needs fixing is invisible, the account that controls it, and fixing it takes about 10 minutes, once, and never again. And here's exactly how to close the 4 gaps we just covered, using nothing but settings already inside your camera's app. Step 1, kill the default login. Open your camera's app, go to Account or Device Settings, and change the username and password immediately after setup, before the camera ever goes live on your network. Use a password you haven't used anywhere else. This alone closes the door Mirai and TrendNet walked through. Step 2, turn on 2-factor authentication. Every major camera brand, Ring, Nest, Arlo, Wyze, offers this in account settings now, largely because of the incidents we just discussed. Turn it on. This means a stolen password from some other website on its own isn't enough to get in. Step 3, check for reused credentials. Most password managers, and even your phone's built-in settings, can tell you if a password you're using has shown up in a known data breach. If your camera password matches your email or Netflix password, change it today. Step 4, isolate the camera on its own network. Most modern routers let you create a second guest Wi-Fi network. Then put your cameras and other smart devices on that guest network instead of your main one. If a camera is ever compromised, the intruder is locked out of your laptop, your files, and your other devices, because it's a separate room, not the same house. Step 5, keep firmware updated. When your camera app tells you an update is available, install it. These updates are frequently the manufacturer's response to exactly the kind of flaw the FTC found in the TrendNet case. The fix that closes a known door. That's it. 5 settings, all inside apps you already own, all fully within the manufacturer's terms of service. No firmware hacking, and no bypassing anything, just actually finishing the setup process the camera was supposed to walk you through in the first place. Now, here's the honest part most security channels skip. A camera, even a perfectly secured one, only records a crime. And it doesn't stop the door from opening. If your actual goal is physically keeping someone out, the research point's somewhere unglamorous. A standard door strike plate, the metal piece the deadbolt latches into, is usually held on with 1/2-inch screws that snap under a single kick. Fine. Replacing it with a reinforced strike plate and 3-inch screws that reach the door frame's stud costs us about $15 and takes 15 minutes with a screwdriver. Pair that with a $30 motion-activated floodlight at the entry points. Remember, the UNC Charlotte study found occupancy and the risk of being seen were the greatest deterrents burglars reported more than anything else. A floodlight that snaps on the instant someone steps into your yard recreates exactly that fear instantly for about the price of dinner out. None of this makes your camera pointless. A secured camera still deters, as the data shows, and it still gives you and law enforcement usable footage after the fact. But it works best as the second layer, not the only one, cameras watch. Strike plates and floodlights actually make entry harder in the first place. The strongest setup uses both, and it costs less than most single camera systems on the market. None of what we covered today is a secret, and none of it bends a single rule. It's just the setup step most people skip, and the pricing math most people never run. The companies that make these devices aren't hiding this information. The fixes are sitting in your app's settings menu right now. The gap is just that nobody tells you it matters until after something's gone wrong. That's really the pattern behind most of these videos. The system usually isn't broken. It's just built to reward the people who take 20 extra minutes to actually understand it. If you found this useful, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.